Last week, we set off to try to find the grave of a person that has eluded us a while. Finding these hillside and mountain cemeteries is not easy. I don't care if you know what holler it is in, hollers are big, and hillsides are steep. But we thought this time we figured out where the D.K. Vance Cemetery was. So who are we after in this adventure in the mountains? She was born Fanny Bell Fleming on April 10th, 1932, in the hills of Wayne County, West Virginia, along 12 Pole Creek near Wilsondale. Back then, it wasn't the kind of place people left to chase dreams. It was the kind of place people were born into and stayed in, working coal, tending small gardens, and raising large families in narrow hollers cut deep into the mountains. Her father was Goodloe Mullins, though he went by the name Goodloe Fleming, taking his mother's surname. In Appalachian communities, that wasn't unheard of. Names shifted for reasons lost to time, family fractures, or pride. Her mother was Laura Evans Fleming. Together, they had a house full of children, often said to be 11, and not much money to stretch between them. Fanny grew up in a place called New Ground Hollow, a remote stretch of land where the roads were rough and opportunity was even rougher. She attended a one-room schoolhouse and learned early what it meant to go without. In her later memoir, Blaze Starr, My Life is Told to Huey, she described wearing worn clothes, feeling hungry, and watching adults struggle just to keep a roof overhead. Coal country in the 1930s and 1940s was not kind to families on the bottom rung, but poverty wasn't the only weight she carried. In her own telling, her home life was chaotic and painful. She spoke of trauma during her teenage years and a sense that staying meant surrendering her future entirely. One thing remained consistent. She felt she had to leave. At 14 or 15 years old, she walked away from that hollow. No grand plan, no guarantee, just a stubborn belief that there had to be more than the life laid out in front of her. She worked briefly in West Virginia before boarding a bus for Washington, D.C. She found work in restaurants and donut shops, serving customers and watching the world move faster than it ever had back home. It was there that someone noticed her, not just her looks, but her presence. In her memoir, she recalled, I was 15 and working as a waitress at the Mayflower Donut Shop in Washington, D.C., when a man named Red Snyder told me I was pretty and ought to be in show business. I said I had been raised to believe it was sinful to dance, but I could play the guitar. Good, he said, I'm going to make you a star. That was the moment Fanny Bell Fleming began to disappear and Blaze Starr began to take shape. By the 1950s, Blaze Starr had become one of the most famous burlesque performers in America. She headlined in Baltimore and New Orleans, especially at the Show Bar, where she built elaborate acts. She performed with dramatic lighting, costumes she designed herself, and the now legendary rotating red velvet bed. Then came 1959 and Governor Earl Kemp Long of Louisiana. Their affair made national headlines. He was 64, she was 27. The press turned it into scandal and spectacle. But Blaze would later say their relationship was genuine, not calculated. The story followed her for the rest of her life and inspired the film Blaze decades later. What many forget is that she was also a businesswoman. She eventually purchased and operated the 2 O'Clock Club in Baltimore. She built her own career long before the word brand was common, and when burlesque began to change in ways she didn't like, she walked away again. In her later years, she reinvented herself as a gemologist and jewelry designer. The woman who once performed under hot stage lights now worked with gemstones, crafting pieces with the same flair she once brought to the stage. It was another transformation, another refusal to be boxed into one chapter of her life. And then, in a twist that feels almost poetic, she returned home. After decades of fame, scandal, and bright lights, Blaze Starr went back to Wilsondale, West Virginia, back to the hills she once escaped. The hollow that had felt like a trap became the place she chose for her final years. She died there on June 15, 2015, at the age of 83. Her life reads like something out of a movie because it was. But underneath the legend was still Fanny Bell Fleming, the daughter of Goodloe Fleming, the girl who refused to stay small in a place that expected her to. She left the hollow to survive, and in the end, she went home. Sadly, her grave has eluded us once more because it wasn't where we thought it was. We were told where it was, but the road was covered in ice and snow, and we just decided it wasn't worth risking getting stuck, so we turned back around and went home. Rest in peace, Blaze. Maybe it's just not meant to be, or maybe we will find you next time.